Hey guys, what's up? So this is the next video in our 2020 Eidolon guys. Today we're going to look at Trinity. Trinity is basically the same as she was before. If you do want to look at the build here, I'll just put it up quickly, but essentially it is the same as the previous. Handspring I've got on here is interchangeable with Coaction Drift, depending on what your squad needs you to run. And then my Arcanes, they're just my personal preference, Guardian and Energize. You can put on whatever you want here. A lot of people like to put Nullifiers on when they're doing Eidolon hunting. Shut up, Ordis. But yeah, we just need that 155% strength to get our max bless buff and our efficiency up high so we can spam it, and a bit of duration just so, yeah, we have bless for a while. And then I'm running just Vectis for DPS, nothing special here. You can run whatever sniper you want, it doesn't really matter as long as it can one-shot the lures. Secondary and melee, we don't actually need any. In fact, we don't really want to have a melee because it allows us to get off our Arcwing easier when we have no melee. And we're obviously running a VS role, so we want to be running Murdurai for VS up here. Where is it? I don't know where it is. Void Strike is down here. That's what we want to have for our VS roles. Now, unlike maybe if you were running another role other than Trinity, I'm actually running a Mesher on this for a few reasons. The first one is that since Blink is now universal, it doesn't really make much difference. There is a slight sprint speed difference. I think it's about 0.12 between a Mesher and Itzal. And I'm running a Mesher because she has a passive ability, which means that she doesn't take sort of knock. She doesn't get knocked anytime she hits an object. She kind of bounces, but she doesn't sort of, you know, roll around, and she can't do anything, which is really useful when you're playing Trinity, because if you happen to overshoot a lure or you're just trying to do things really fast, then you don't want to have that where you're just stuck rolling around. So that's the reason I'm running that. Everything else, it doesn't matter obviously, but my Mesher you can put on everything you want obviously, because you're not actually going to be using any of the abilities really. You can if you want. Some of them are actually quite useful in hunting Eidolons. For example, your third, immune to status effects, it's quite nice, as well as your second as well, to give you some healing. Most of them work out pretty well. But yeah, that's basically the build we're going to run for Trinity. Once again in this video, this is the first time that I'm running Trinity since I've come back, so obviously I'm a bit rusty. And the run you're going to see, yeah, I'll make a few mistakes, but generally, hopefully, from what I can remember, it should be alright. But yeah, we'll get into the video and see what's going on. Alright guys, so we're in the gate here, about to come out. Start like usual as before. We're still going to get a lure before we go to the teralyst, so we're just going to run out here and get into our operator and dash out so that we can spawn Gantulysts. Sometimes it takes a while, you can't get into your operator straight away. That's just an issue with the game. You saw the Gantulyst spawn over on the left there. We're going to go over to the closest camp possible and grab ourselves a lure. Remember that, since we can just stop now without having to use our 2, it's better to just fly up to the lure and then hit Y. Then we're going to come off, proc our Virtuous Shadow. I'm not going to go in depth on Virtuous Shadow in this video just because it's effectively the same as it was before. So if you want to watch my previous video on how to use Virtuous Shadow and amps and all of that stuff, you can go and do that. But in this video right here, what I'm doing, since my teammates are fairly good, I'm quite happy for them to take out the second lure without me. So I'm just going around here flying and collecting some more lures while I can. I'm just going to get this one, and then I'm going to fly back and help for the next limb. So you want to help with at least sort of 2 or 3 of the shields as Trinity, just in case your teammates are running out of stacks. So you saw there that they didn't quite manage to take down the shield by themselves, so me helping out was beneficial. I'm then going to hold some of the lures for the Garuda in this case is our DPS, which I might also cover in another video if I learn her. So yeah, I'm just going to keep going backwards and forwards here, same as before. So we've got 6 lures, which I actually have to count up, and I'm just going to go and grab the last 2. And it's worth noting that lures can spawn in the same spot. A lot of people don't know this. They try and sort of fly around the map. They can stay relatively close to the Eidolon, which is why a lot of people can't find that last lure. Sometimes you have trouble locating the final lure, because obviously only 8 can spawn unless you have already got a few charged, I think, in which case an extra one can spawn and you can get 9. But for people who are struggling to sort of find lures, look in sort of the close places to the Eidolon. Usually one will spawn nearby. So yeah, it's always worth going back and checking, even if you've already got a lure there. So right now we're just sort of dashing under the Eidolon to try and get our lures charged. A load of Omvalists will spawn when the Eidolon goes down and when he's getting back up, as you can see. I'm running Magus Lockdown on my operator as well, which is what those lines are connecting to the Omvalists. It helps deal a bit more damage. I can kill the Omvalists faster without having to waste stacks, my Void Strike stacks. So what we're going to do here, normal VS, the DBS is going to put her shard in first, and then I'm going to try and stack with the next person. And then when we're shooting here, we're going to shoot, sort of try and get them close to the ground so that we can take out the shield as quickly as possible. Obviously, the biggest drawback with Proper is the fact that it takes a while for the shots to detonate. So in order to make them detonate faster, you want to try and get them to impact on a surface, and that way you'll get the shot a lot quicker. As you saw, we took down the shield very fast at the start there, so it's always worth trying to get them to hit or collide with something. One way you can do that is you can leave your frame by the side of the lake, or by the shield, sorry, where you shoot from, and then you can shoot into your frame. That always works. And yeah, we're just going to repeat the process here. It's important to note as well, as Trinity, it's your job obviously to sort of keep the lures alive and keep your teammates alive. In this instance, because of the way Garuda works as a DPS, you don't really want to be like using your bless all that often, just because Garuda needs to be at low HP, and obviously every time you bless, yeah, you'll put her back up to full HP, and she won't have her buff anymore. So it's important to note that if you are running without a Garuda, you're running a different DPS, then you can probably use your bless a bit more just to make things a bit more comfortable for your teammates. But you don't need to, obviously. The one time really you do want to use bless is when the lasers come down for Gantulyst. That's really the only time you need to use it, as well as when you're flying away after the final phase, just so that you don't get knocked out of Arcwing, or your DPS doesn't get knocked out of Arcwing on the way over to the shrine. But other than that, yeah, I mean, you don't even have to run Trinity either if you're careful. You can run something like Wisp if you want. Wisp is really nice as well because she obviously has that speed boost, and when you're gathering lures, that's the sort of thing you need. So yeah, she can give a lot of tanky support to your team as well. The one thing I would say about running Wisp though, and I will cover this probably in a future video, I'll be doing a Wisp DPS as well as a Wisp support probably, is that you do have to be careful with your lures. You have to keep them out of the lasers. One thing that I'm doing here, which I've also mentioned in my amp guides and my void shadow guides, void strike guides, sorry. You'll see that I've only got one stack up here, and I haven't reset my stacks. That's because as Trinity, you can stay in you don't have to come out of your operator mode really past first phase. So I'm just stacking up a really nice first crit here. It doesn't really matter in this instance because we get a long spawn, but since I can get a nice sort of overstack, you'll see here after I shoot this first shot, I'll be back up to sort of 7 or 8 times VS afterwards. So it's always really nice. So we're just going to go on to the Hydrolyst here. Same process as before with the Gantulyst. Again, you don't really have to use Bless, and I'm not going to use Bless really at all until the last bit because of the Garuda. But yeah, you want to shoot into the floor here. And then we're going to proc our shadow like usual, and we're just going to sort of go backwards and forwards like that. You saw as well, or if you didn't see as well, you can go back and have a look. How a Mesher is really helpful when you're collecting lures. She doesn't really have that impact effect, which is really nice. You can just sort of fly up to the lures and stop. You don't have to worry about bouncing around and not being able to connect. One thing I will say as well, the new Parazon mods, for example, Auto Breach and whatever the one is that makes you go invisible, they're really handy. Although the one that makes you go invisible, I found that it often doesn't make you go invisible. I'm not really sure what the deal with it is, but having those on definitely helps. Auto Breach, I would say not so much. I'm not really sure why it's pausing here a bit. It's a bit odd, but yeah. Auto Breach is an interesting one just because it's not slow by any means. It's not as slow as hacking the lure manually, but it does take longer than if you use a cipher. And you saw me using ciphers at the start there. They've actually increased the speed of sort of hacking a lot more with the ciphers. You can basically use a cipher before the keypad even comes up, and you can get out of the UI screen before you even finished. So yeah, I mean, it's up to you whether you want to take auto breach. I do, just because I like to save ciphers. I don't know why you wouldn't want to save ciphers, but yeah, if you're keen on doing it as fast as humanly possible, then you might want to take auto breach off. And yeah, we've just come up to the last phase here. Like I said, it's very similar to Trinity, how she was before. The only real difference is collecting the lures. Obviously, you're having to fly around rather than blink around, and it's a bit slower, but you get the hang of it. But yeah, so he's getting up here. We'll probably be ending the video after this, so if you guys have any questions or suggestions, or you want to make any comments on this, I'm always open to yeah, any sort of constructive criticism you can give. I'll take it, so please do. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Oh, bad.